Here they come from the operation and checkout building. Commander Hoot Gibson leading the way, followed by Kurt Brown, Jay Apt, Mark Lee and his wife Jan Davis, Mae Jemison, and Mamoru Mori. They've trained a long time for this mission, 7 years for Dr. Mori.
Wow, look at you. That was Dr. Mae Jemison and the Space Shuttle Endeavour crew moments before their journey into orbit. That was back in 1992. Now, on that flight, Dr. Jemison made history as the first woman of color to travel into space. Wow, breaking ground for a lot of people, including, I have to say, myself sitting here today. Her mission lasted 8 days. She carried out 44 science experiments with her crewmates. Since then, she has dedicated her life to advancing science, technology, and education. We are so happy to say that Dr. Mae Jemison joins us in the studio. I really mean it when I say it's an honor and a privilege to have you here. I walked in the green room and I went, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. You are a real astronaut. Yeah. I mean, when they said I love this number. You were one of only 15 people out of 2,000 applicants, Dr. Mae, accepted into the NASA astronaut training program. That was back in 1987.
Right. I was in the first group of astronauts after the Challenger accident.
After the Challenger.
And in fact, my application was in at the time of that. Yeah, because there's so much that we can do. There's so much we have to learn.
Well, why was it important to you? I think people are thinking, yeah, this is just all fun, billionaires, very elitist thing. Why do you think it's important that we go into space? What is it that people don't understand?
First of all, space gives us a remarkable perspective for looking at the Earth. We can look at and understand floods, what's happened to the ozone layer. We can look for minerals, all kinds of things you can do from space. You can map roads, all of that from space in a fraction of the time with a fraction of the cost than you would do it if you were doing it on Earth. But there's something else really important. Space technologies, we're using them every day.
How so?
How many people have a cell phone, right?
Yeah.
They have a smartphone and they ask for Bertha, Alexa, Siri, whoever, to tell them directions. That's Global Positioning Satellite System in your hand. So we use space technologies every day. And why was it important to do space? Because space pushes us much harder. We have to do things in ways we never thought of before because you're trying something so difficult. And so I think the reason I'm so proud of you, Gail, I don't know if I have to tell you, I'm so proud of you because I watch you guys all the time and I remember you saying, yeah, that's really great, those other people are going up and I'm not going up.
Yes. You would sit and say what? Stop talking, Gail?
I would say, Gail, don't say that. Aww. Don't say that. But, you know, you step back and now you're gonna go.
So
you're gonna join us.
What is your advice to Gail? We've been collecting advice. We had William Shatner on yesterday, but what's your advice to her going up?
First of all, understand that you've never had so many talented people looking after you in your life. The other is that you going up, you're bringing your own perspective, whatever that is, live in that moment, and then bring down and share it. And your training is going to be important because that's going to help you to understand what happens in the scale of space exploration and why it's so different from other things we do.
You know, it's a very quick flight. People say, someone stopped me on the street, I hear you're going to the moon. I'm not going to the moon, I'm coming up. It's 11 minutes and coming back down. I'm very fascinated about the wonder of it all and what it means and how I will feel and how I will be changed because I actually do think I'll be changed. I'm not a brave person, I'm not. And so for me, this is really stepping in a territory that I never thought. I'm really not.
You're a courageous person.
Courageous, okay.
And courage is doing those things that we might be afraid of.
That's scary.
Right?
How did it change you?
Well, first of all, the little orange flight suit picture changed a lot of things because people see you in one way as an astronaut. Personally, what it did for me is to connect me to the greater universe. Sometimes folks say that astronauts look down at the Earth and say, everything that I touch belongs here, or that there are no lines between the countries. I never thought that. I grew up during a time where of course there are no lines between the countries. But what it did do is connect me with the rest of the universe. As I looked out, I imagined that I'm as much a part of this universe as any speck of stardust. And I think the one thing that we have a hard time as humans sometimes understanding is our connection to the rest of the universe, which also connects us to each other.
I think the world would be a very different place if everybody got the opportunity to go to space. And I think it's so important that you're going because you're a journalist and you can be a stand-in for many, many people the way you'll tell the story. How do you think the world would be different if everyone were able to be up there?
Because you think space should be more accessible to everybody, you say.
Not only space in terms of going there, but the technologies, the data sets, all of those things are really important to connect us. But can I tell you a secret?
Yeah.
Yes.
We're in
won't tell
space
anybody.
right now. Right? We're in space right now. The Earth is in space. And
Yeah, but
we
we're on the
always
ground,
say,
though, Mae.
She's right. We are hurtling
But
through
what's above
space.
us connects us. Every group of people around the world have looked up at the stars for thousands of generations, used them to figure out how do we, when do we plant things to navigate. And the reason I say that is because we're not so disconnected. And we don't all have to go, but we do have to look up.
Were you
Everybody looks
afraid
up.
when you went up? I'm curious.
I had a good, healthy respect for sitting on, tons of high explosives. But again, that's where I wanted to be. I think, let me just tell you about, I didn't like heights. And as an astronaut, you have to parachute train.
Yeah.
I didn't like heights. But the difference is, as I said, am I going to let my dislike of heights keep me from doing something that may change me, that is very impactful to my life?
All right.
So that's the piece you're doing. You're going to bring that back to everyone.
Yes.
I ask that you leave your phone number before you leave, and don't give me the okey doke number. Give me the real telephone number.
No, you can call me anytime. Don't worry, and I will be there. Anything you need.
Thank you so
What's
much.
above us unites us.
Dr. Mae
I love
Jemison,
that.
thank you
I
so
do
much.
too.
Appreciate it. And we will bring you Gail's trip to space on a Blue Origin rocket in a special additional hour of CBS Mornings on Monday, April 14th, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific.
Now you can talk.
It's a ceremony as old as television there, the making of a graphics package. It is now real, Gail. You are going to space.
You're going to space,
I saw it there on the
Gail.
screen for the first time. I have my own graphic lab.
I know, you got your own graphic.
But listen, our next guest really knows something about this. She was on a Virgin Galactic space flight back in 2023 over here in Jamal. She's an astronaut, she's a researcher, she's an advocate for women in space, science, and technology. She'll also, by the way, be returning to space next year with an all-female crew. I like that. She says it's her mission to enable future researchers to use space as a laboratory to benefit humanity. Kellie Gerardi, welcome.
Welcome.
I am
Thank you
so
for
glad to
having
see
me.
you and meet you because I need people like you at this time in my life. Because I get two reactions, either what the beep are you thinking, or I'm so jealous I wish I could go.
Yeah,
What do you
listen to
say?
the second group.
Yeah, really, I'm leaning in hard, too. But what do you say to people that are still skeptical? It's a lot of money, you're going up for what?
Yeah.
Why? What is the purpose?
Oh gosh,
As you see it.
Where to start? For me, I think there's always been this fallacy that it's a zero-sum game, that investment and innovation in one area on Earth is somehow taking away from investment in other areas. And I think it's a symbiotic thing. We need people working on the hardest problems in all areas of humanity, and space is one of those frontiers. The scientific research return, the economic growth, the global cooperation, and the global inspiration are all so important to our future.
What do you hope young women take away from seeing you talk about being an astronaut, seeing Gail and her all-female crew go up? What do you think that shows? Why do you think it matters?
Yeah, I think it matters a lot, showing that not even the sky is the limit. I'm a mom of a 7-year-old daughter, so I've been able to see that needle move in my own household. If I close my eyes right now and picture someone doing science in space, I'm not picturing someone who looks like me, and I've been there. But if you ask my daughter to picture someone doing science in space, she's picturing herself. And I think that's such a profound shift, one generation later, to be able to visualize that for yourself.
Yeah,
So
I
you-
think that's interesting, too.
You've said that, on one hand, when diversity is under attack in this country, you've said that you're unwilling to tone down your femininity or your personality to fit into the stereotype of an astronaut. On the other hand, you're a huge advocate for young women and STEM, but there are still challenges for young women in STEM.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. For me, it was so much about being able to show my daughter that femininity doesn't undermine credibility, and just wanting not to fit into society's picture of, what someone doing in science and space looks like, but rather trying to force that picture to expand to include me and showing, my daughter or any other young eyes that are watching women reach new heights, that you can be yourself, you can bring your full self to, your career, and that all of these things can go together really beautifully.
Well, I like what you said, through your daughter's young eyes. My eyes are not young. So this has never been my dream. That's why I'm so fascinated about myself. This is so stepping out of my comfort zone in a way I can't even explain to you or even to myself, but there's something exciting to me about it. There's something brave about it, because I don't consider myself a brave person. And I can't even imagine what it's going to be like. When William Shatner did it, he came with such wonder and such awe, and I thought, I wonder what that feels like. And I thought, nah, I'll never do it. Are you ever really adequately prepared for what you're going to see? Help me with that, Kellie.
Yeah, I have to say, for me, I spent 10 years preparing on the science side, and I felt like I knew exactly what to expect.
Yeah.
But when I got there, I realized that nothing could have prepared me for the emotional aspect of it. To see planet Earth with your own eyes, it was like this cognitive dissonance of feeling both a part of it and being slightly outside of it. And the emotional realization for me as a mom that in that moment I'm not on the same planet as my baby. It was such a beautiful thing. And then the intense just humility and appreciation of looking at a view that, in my case at the time, fewer than 100 women in history had ever seen with their own eyes, and the fragility of it all, and just the appreciation for that opportunity, and the intense, motivation to hold that door open wider when I got back to Earth for the next generation.
It's such an amazing thing being able to see the Earth from above like that. So few people have done it. Within the history of just the written world, we used to think it was like a cube maybe in the sky. We had no idea, right? Now we do. What do you think it would mean if everybody on the planet, or most people, could see what you've seen from space? How would the world be different?
Yeah, there's that famous quote of, you just want to drag a politician by his collar and show him, or her, look at that, look at what we're all in space. And so to be able to see not just the science community, which was always my dream, but I'm excited to see poets in space. I'm excited to see people from different disciplines. Gail, you're a perfect example of someone who can go to space, experience this, and bring this experience to millions of people in your own voice, from your own perspective. And I think the world will be better off if more people can see how united we are and how much we share.
I just hope I will go and not scream for my dead mother.
Well, no one will hear you.
We won't know.
That's what I'm hoping.
You do
And that
journalism
opened
as
my
well.
eyes.
Kellie Gerardi, thank you very much.
Kellie, it's
We'll
so
be
nice
right
to
back.
meet you.
Thank you.
We are really excited about our next guest because she and I are about to embark on the adventure of a lifetime together. Amanda Nguyen is her name. She's a civil rights activist and an astronaut, and soon she will become the first Vietnamese and Southeast Asian woman to travel to space. Wow. And guess what? I get to go. Oh boy, look at that. This spring, along with 4 other women, we are heading to space on a historic Blue Origin flight. Why? Because it's the first time we'll be an all-female crew. And just this week, Nguyen released her new book. It's called Saving 5, a memoir of hope. She shares her story of healing after being sexually assaulted in her senior year of college at Harvard and pausing her astronaut dreams to become an advocate for survivors. And we're really excited. So glad to meet you in person. Amanda Nguyen is here in the studio. Hello, Amanda.
Hello, crewmate.
Yeah, hello, crewmate. I want to talk about the memoir because, A, I've never seen anything like it. And the way that you wrote it, where you're talking to your it's called Saving 5 because you focus on your 5-year-old self, your 22-year-old self, your 30-year-old self. And you say the 2 most important ages of the people you want to make proud are your 5-year-old self and your 80-year-old self. Why did you pick those 2 ages? Why is that so important to you?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
I picked 5-year-old and 80-year-old because really, I think the purpose in our lives is to live out our full potential and to make ourselves proud. So whether that be moments of fear that we conquer or whether that be living out our dreams, truly what I want people to know is that their dreams matter and can still come true.
And the thing that really moved me about the book is that you had to put your dreams on hold after sexual assault, where you had to make a choice between your career or justice, and you decided to pursue justice.
Yes. Yeah, my memoir goes about how I took my telescope and traded it for a pen. I drafted the Sexual Assault Survivor Bill of Rights, and the United States Congress and the United Nations passed that unanimously. And after 10 years of fighting for my rights, I finally get to honor the person that I was before I was hurt. And Gail, you're part of that happy ending.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Amanda. But when you talk about the Survivors' Bill of Rights, I think we should really focus on what you did to make this happen. Because before you, the rape kits were destroyed in Massachusetts after how many days?
6 months.
After 6 months. In New York, it was 30 days.
That's right.
And many times after 6 months, women can't decide what, if anything, they want to do. And you got that law changed. But yet you have never used the rape kit in your own particular case.
Yeah, I wanted to preserve my ability to have justice in the future. You know, I think that it is such a harrowing choice for survivors to survive through, you know.
Yes.
For me, justice can come in many different forms. I wanted to make sure that no one had to go through what I had to go through.
Yeah.
But revisiting it, not only in your activism, but now in this book, how are you able to do that? That's not easy.
Yes.
Yeah, well, you know, I think my life is an exercise in doing really hard things, but I really want everyone to know that going through grief and fighting for your justice is something that is worth it. And if you're able to find the courage to do so, it can be a healing experience.
You know, Gail mentioned speaking to the 5-year-old version of yourself. What would you say to that little girl right now, knowing what life is going to throw her way?
Look at that picture, Nate.
Oh, yeah, that is me.
Look at that, yeah.
I would tell my 5-year-old that you matter. You know, it doesn't matter where you come from, but what matters is where you're going. And I think that all of us could have our dreams deferred. We've had to make sacrifices, and for anyone who's reading this, I want them to know that their dreams can still come true.
But what's so great about the book, guys, is that you're talking to the 5, the 22, the 18, the 30, they're all talking to each other.
Yeah.
Right.
And they all give different, I've never seen a memoir written that way. And I think it's so powerful and so effective, the way you lay out everybody's storyline and how they're all dealing with different things at different times.
Yes.
Bravo.
Thank you so much. I wanted people to find a roadmap for themselves. So I wanted them to read it and ask themselves what would they say to their 5-year-old self and 15-year-old self, because all parts of us have things to teach us.
Yeah.
All right, speaking of roadmaps, there's a roadmap to space that Tony and I, we're not familiar with.
And
but
neither is Gail.
You are. And what was your reaction when you learned that you were joining this star-studded crew, which includes Katy Perry, philanthropist Lauren Sanchez, aerospace engineer Aisha Bowe, a film producer Carrie Ann Flynn.
It is amazing.
And of course, Gail King.
Yes.
What did you think?
Sanchez,
Is that what you guys are going to look like?
Oh my gosh, I love that.
I love it too.
Spacesuit looks good on you, Gail.
What a historic crew. And you know, each one of my crewmates represents a community. I'm so proud to be representing mine as the first Vietnamese woman in space. I'll actually be doing 2 science experiments to honor that.
Oh, wow.
One is on plant pathology in partnership with the Vietnamese National Space Center. And the second is on menstruation. It's on women's health.
Wow.
Women were actually barred for becoming astronauts at NASA early on.
We have to do
Menstruation was one of
experiments?
the-
I thought
Because of that reason?
Wow.
Yes, because of menstruation, but they didn't have the data to back that up. And so I am gathering.
Amanda, are you afraid?
I am not.
were
I'm
not
so
afraid.
excited to go. It's
Can you
how
console Gail? Gail's a little worried, Amanda.
I'm serious. How are you not afraid?
No, I really think back to my family and how they're boat refugees in Vietnam. And if they could go through that journey, then I can go through this too.
Okay, well, you may have to be petting me like a puppy.
I will hold your hand.
I'm really
every step
excited,
of the
but I'm
way.
also very afraid. I'm so excited to be part of this crew with you and the other women. Really.
Likewise,
I'm
likewise.
really, really psyched about it. Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you very much.
The book, Saving 5, A Memoir of Hope, is on sale now wherever you like to buy your books.
That's our planet. Oh my God, that's space.
Wow. Even if your nickname is Space Gal, you can be amazed when you actually get to space. Emily Calandrelli recently became the 100th woman of all time to slip the surly bonds of Earth, pierce the final frontier, and she and her Blue Origin crewmates traveled took about 62 miles above the Earth during their mission last month. Calandrelli is also the host of Emily's Science Lab back here on planet Earth, on ground, terra firma. It's on YouTube if you want to check it out. It's very good. And she joins us now to talk all about her journey. Emily, welcome back.
Thank you for having me back.
Talk to us about that video. There was emotion there in your voice.
Oh my gosh. So I'm an aerospace engineer. I studied this stuff for nearly a decade, and it has been a dream of mine to see that view for the longest time. And I think for a while I didn't think it was going to happen for me. And so that moment, there's a little bit of fear. I just launched on a rocket. There's a little bit of pride of like, oh my God, I did it. And then you're just overwhelmed with the view. It's pure magic.
Is it the overview effect? Is that what they call that?
Yeah, I think so. It affects everybody a little bit differently. For me, I think it's going to take a while to truly understand how it impacts me, but it was such a ride.
Yeah.
Such a ride.
So we all know what Earth looks like from space, right? Like all of these images. But when you're actually up there looking at it, is it different?
It feels different. It feels like you were looking at the Grand Canyon for the first time or the ocean for the first time. It's like the biggest possible thing that your eyes have ever seen. And you're seeing new contrasts, new colors, new details, and the blackness of space. Like, you've never seen a color like this before. Wow. It is just the absence of anything, and it's a little bit spooky, actually.
I'm so glad you bring up the Grand Canyon or the ocean. I find when I go back to the water, it's summertime and you see the ocean for the first time, it's always bigger than you remember.
Yes.
And I think the Grand Canyon has the same effect. There are certain things that don't fit through the lens of a camera.
Right.
Your brain can expand them in a different way. So I would have my mind blown, I think.
You should go. I highly recommend it.
I would love to. I would love to. I actually did the training for an old Virgin Atlantic or Virgin Galactic rocket where, in the centrifuge.
Yep.
So talk to us about that G-force feeling, though. To get there is not easy.
It's not easy. So you're traveling at thousands of miles per hour. You feel about
you're like laying back,
You're
right?
laying back. So that makes the G-forces a little bit less intense because it's hitting you at a diagonal. So you're not at risk of passing out or anything like that, but you still feel it. And you get about 3 Gs on the way up, but you get 5 Gs on the way down because you're decelerating really quickly. So your face feels a little bit like it's melting off into the chair, and it's a little bit hard to breathe, and that's the most intense part of the ride.
So 5 times what you're feeling right now of the Earth's atmosphere just coming through you, right? That's
what 5 times gravity.
Yeah.
And are you supposed to breathe in a certain way, or?
Yeah, you're kind of like. I've flown in fighter jets, so I had some G training, and so I did that a little bit, so I didn't pass out.
So talk to us a bit about the landing and how parachutes help.
Yes, exactly. So I have an experiment here, and while it may not look like it, this teaches us why we use parachutes to land spacecraft back down here on Earth. So when I landed on Earth, my spacecraft deployed 3 big parachutes, and those filled up with a lot of air, and that air resistance slowed us down. And we may not think about it, but in this room, we have 14.7 pounds per square inch of pressure everywhere all the time, which means on every square inch of your body, you have 15 pounds of force from the air in this room. We don't feel it because our bodies are used to it, but this experiment shows us that the air in the room is pushing on everything all the time. That air is pushing up on that ping pong ball, counteracting the force of water pushing it down. Now, we also have some surface tension that's keeping that ping pong in place, but that's the air pressure in the room is putting that ping pong up there, preventing that water from falling out.
Can I feel that for a second? Like, is it really, can you flip it over again? Is it really stuck? Like,
feel it. You can kind of move it a little bit. It's
I was not expecting that.
Yeah, you can move it like that.
I love how it's like a law of nature or whatever, but we still have the towel ready.
Just in case, because you never know.
You never know.
Nothing is 100%.
But so NASA wants to go to Mars in the 2030s, land a mission with human beings.
That seems soon, doesn't it?
I really hope I live to be old enough to see this, right?
I cannot wait for that.
So how is landing back on Earth, big old planet, different or same for landing on Mars as a planet?
So the trickiest part of Mars is that it only has 1% of the air pressure that we have here on Earth. So parachutes don't work as well. You use them, but you need other things as well. You need retro rockets, you need sky cranes. And when NASA lands rovers on Mars, they call it the 7 minutes of terror because you need all of these things to happen in succession, like perfectly and autonomously, because it's so far away that the radio delay is too much to have any human involvement.
So your rocket went up without a hitch, but a lot of times, like, these things are delayed or they're canceled because there's wind. I've always wondered how the wind can cancel a giant rocket that's probably like tons and tons of pounds.
Yes, exactly, because these rockets, so mine, for example, launched 2,000 miles per hour upward, but 15, 20 miles per hour sideways would have delayed the rocket. So I have another experiment to show why that is. So rockets are really only strong in one direction. Similarly, a soda can is only strong in one direction. And we can prove that here. This is an experiment from one of my Stay Curious and Keep Exploring books. And if I stand on here with my boot, you can see that it's not crushing. And so, if I take it like this, watch what happens when I just pinch it with a little bit of pressure.
Right.
It breaks, right? Because it's only strong vertically, it's not strong in this direction, because it doesn't need to be. If we tried to make it strong in every direction, it would be too heavy, too inefficient, too expensive, just like a rocket.
Oh, amazing.
Really cool.
And this is what you actually wore in space?
Yes.
Have you named her?
Spacesuit. Oh, and I have not named her. I've also not washed her. And so I think that I'm just going to keep all the space sweat in my spacesuit. Yeah, it's all very special to me.
This is amazing. So what are you looking for next? We talked about Mars, but what's the exciting thing for you when you look at the future of space travel?
Oh, I'm excited for more people to see the view that I got to see. Like, you heard my discovery, my awe. Like, I cannot wait to share that experience with the little kids, the families who follow me online. And I want more people across this planet to be able to get that perspective.
Forever changed, are you?
Forever changed.
Do you feel like you have a different appreciation for life and
oh my
every
gosh,
day?
yes. I mean, I feel so grateful because only fewer than 700 people out of the 100 billion humans who have been alive on this planet have seen that view, and I got to be one of them.
More people played professional football, baseball, and basketball last year than have done that in just 1 year. So.
Yeah.
Emily Calandrelli, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Really excited to have you back. Emily's Science Lab, featuring some easy experiments for kids, is available on YouTube. Check it out. You're looking at the Kennedy Space Center in Florida, where NASA and SpaceX called off, unfortunately, a planned overnight launch of 4 crew members to the International Space Station. They cited a technical issue. That launch, though, now set for tomorrow morning, and the mission's commander, the only American on board, is NASA astronaut Jasmine Mogbelli. It will be the first trip into space for this Marine helicopter pilot, who is also, not for nothing, an MIT graduate. Mark Strassman has her story.
Jasmine Mogbelli, stuck on the stars and on making her dream happen in the cosmos.
I always knew I wanted to be an astronaut.
You've been playing the long game since you were in 6th grade.
Yes, it's pretty funny because in my 6th grade yearbook, you know, there's that page of what everyone wants to be, and mine says astronaut.
Astronaut camp as a teenager, the daughter of Iranian political refugees. College at MIT. She played 3 sports, including basketball, and with space in mind, studied aeronautical engineering. Then a gutsy career as a Marine attack helicopter pilot, more than 150 combat missions, part family tradition, part service to country, part in service to those space dreams.
I never wanted to close the door to becoming an astronaut, and military service certainly was not closing that door.
A karmic clarity will bring Mogbelli to this door, the hatch of a SpaceX Crew Dragon. A 40-year-old mother of 2 commanding an international crew of 4.
The fact that humans go to space at all is still really mind-blowing to me.
And what about that view?
Yes, the view back at Earth. Every astronaut I've talked to has said looking back at Earth changed their perspective. I can't imagine what that's like for the first time. I even remember seeing the Grand Canyon for the first time, and I thought that was incredible. But looking back at our home planet from space, I just can't imagine.
Looking down on Earth, looking up to the universe of possibilities.
We as humans can't help but explore. I also think it's really important in inspiring the next generation.
To her, this mission is about all that. Determination, exploration, inspiration, especially to the next generation of girls, like her twin daughters, Zelda and Estelle.
When they see the diverse crews that are going up there, they realize they can be a part of this. Whether it's becoming an astronaut or something else, they realize they can do it as well.
Like Mogbelli, who has always had her eyes on the stars. For CBS Mornings, Mark Strassman in Houston.
Earlier, we spoke with NASA astronaut Christina Koch about the significance of this mission. Now, she's a member of the Artemis team, and she's also got quite the resume. Listen to her numbers. She spent 328 consecutive days in space. That's the longest of any woman, and she conducted 6 spacewalks. Go, Christina. What are they looking for?
Well, we're looking for a lot of different things. One of the primary missions is to make sure that the heat shield can withstand those re-entry conditions. We'll be going a lot faster than we typically go when we come back from what we call low Earth orbit, which is where I went on the space station. So that's a primary objective. We're looking at all the different human factors that will become in play when we put humans on the next vehicle. Things like radiation, some of the life support things. So we're doing a lot of testing. That thing is instrumented all the way up and down, and we can't wait to get the data back and see what's going to happen next.
Christina, pardon me, that's the vehicle itself. What about putting feet on the moon again? Why is that important for the mission to Mars?
You know, there's so many reasons why going back to the moon is happening right now. This is the right time for it. We're going back to stay this time for innovation, for inspiration, and of course, for that interplanetary aspect of our next step onto Mars. We're going to take the technologies, the operations, lessons that we learn, and we're going to bring that on our next step. And really, that's all about searching for life, learning more about our solar system, the universe, and our place in it. So I can't wait to see all that unfold in the next decade.
Christina, you could be part of the crew that actually steps foot on the moon, first time in 50 years. That's been done. It'd be the south pole of the moon. Why is that area significant, if you could?
There's a lot of scientific reasons we would go back to the South Pole, actually, one of which is water ice. That was a recent discovery there. So resources that are there that we can use are exciting. There are craters there that actually never see the sun because of the sun angle and because of the depth of the crater. So there's a lot of really neat scientific reasons to go back to the South Pole. And the technology of this mission actually enables us to go to those different regions as opposed to the landing sites of the Apollo missions.
And if you get to go, Christina, we'll be cheering you on. We'll be cheering you on.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We're going to begin with this. SpaceX, their Falcon 9 rocket is at Kennedy Space Center in Florida this morning, gearing up for a very historic launch. Why? This Inspiration 4 mission is scheduled to begin tomorrow, taking the first all-civilian crew on a 3-day flight into space. Now, their orbit will be farther away from Earth than the International Space Station. The mission will also raise funds for St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital there in Memphis. Hayley Arceneaux, remember that name, she is a physician assistant there, and she is one of the crew members. In our series Note to Self, the 29-year-old Louisiana native writes about her resilience of the face of struggle and how she earned her place on this very special mission.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Dear Hayley, you are in for such a wild ride.
Ignition.
Literally.
Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon.
You are going on a rocket ship to space.
Go SpaceX, Godspeed.
Outer space. And the whole world will be watching. Never in my wildest dreams did I think I'd be telling you this.
Vehicles pitching downrange.
I know, it's our little brother Hayden, who has been in love with all things space since he was 6 years old, and Mom and Dad took us to visit NASA in Houston. Remember we took pictures that made it look like we were floating in the air? Who would have ever thought you'd be training to actually float in air, to really go to space? And I couldn't be more excited. Of course Hayden grew up to be an aerospace engineer, but now you are the one going into orbit, around Earth for 3 days, and going farther into space than any human has gone in over a dozen years.
Dragon, separation confirmed.
I'm sure you're wondering how all this came to be. Well, here's the thing. Right after the trip the whole family took to NASA, you get sick. Really sick. At 10, you'll be diagnosed with bone cancer and go to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, where they will save your life.
My disease is called osteosarcoma. It's very serious.
The chemo will be intense. You'll lose your hair, but it grows back and better than ever. The surgeries are very difficult. You'll get a prosthesis in your leg that enables you to walk and dance, but not jump or run. You hate the scars at first, but later you'll be proud of them and own the fact that you look cute in shorts. Physical therapy seems never ending, a total of 5 years of it. You can't do some things you think will be important. But I promise it all gets better. And you can actually do things you never thought possible. Having cancer makes you who you are. and you become stronger for it. I tell the same thing to my patients today. Sit up. Patients? Yes, your patients. You will grow up to become a physician assistant at St. Jude. The bone cancer diagnosis is so scary, but St. Jude becomes home. You make friends with the doctors and nurses. Some are even coming to see your space launch. And you find hope there. You want to share that hope with other kids going through the same thing. You will tell anyone who will listen, I'm gonna work here one day. And they believe it too, because you've always been determined and strong-willed.
A cancer survivor will be one of the first private citizens in the country to rocket to outer space.
St. Jude is actually the reason you're going to space. You are chosen for the Hope Seat of the Inspiration 4 mission, going out further than the International Space Station. This historic first all-civilian mission to space is raising hundreds of millions of dollars for St. Jude.
Hayley Arceneaux will serve as the crew's medical officer.
And you're going into space as the youngest American, the first pediatric cancer survivor, and the first person with an internal prosthesis. You are going to space to show other kids like you what they are capable of. You didn't just survive. You have persevered and thrived. And having cancer gives you such a love and zest for life, and a confidence to say yes to opportunities that could change your life, even if they are scary.
Dragon SpaceX on the big loop.
And Hayley, just so you know, it's okay to be scared. When St. Jude invited me to go to space, my hands were shaking, but I knew it would be a once-in-a-lifetime experience, that it would help others, and that I'd grow and learn so much. Just like when I did a semester by myself in Spain. I went there not knowing anybody, but I said yes, and my life was so much better for it. Training for space is rigorous, modeled after NASA astronaut training with centrifuge, hypoxia, zero gravity, and water survival training exercises. You'll even climb a mountain, which you dreaded the most but turned out to be the most rewarding. You can't predict life. And for some people that's a negative, but I think of it as a positive. Maybe it's because of what I've gone through, what we've gone through. There are a few important things I've learned that I'd like to share. First, to hold on to hope always, because there will be brighter days. Also, happiness is a choice, and it's worth choosing. There's no telling what will come next, but I'm sure enjoying the ride. Love, Hayley, soon to be over 500 kilometers in space.
Wow.
Hayley Arceneaux.
How about that? What a triumph of a life.
Yes.
I am
Love
scared.
her.
I couldn't do it.
Me
but
neither.
When you beat cancer, it creates a fearlessness.
Yeah.
So her strength is the reason why she isn't scared to go into space.
She says cancer made her who she is, but I think actually it's her triumph over it that made her who she is and gave her that fearlessness.
I like hold on to hope always. I so believe that, Hayley. Happiness is always a choice. I also believe that. But shout out to Hayley and shout out to the other three. Jared Isaacman, he's a billionaire entrepreneur, commander of the flight. Sine Proctor, a geology professor. I love the variety of this crew. Former astronaut candidate, and Christopher Zembrowski, who's a data engineer. Bravo, bravo. And they all lift off tomorrow. We should also say a special thank you to Kira Cleveland. Kira Cleveland,
her final piece.
Producer for us.
Yeah.
This is her final piece. Way to go out on a bang, Kira Cleveland.
Well,
we're going to miss you, Kira. We're going to miss you.
After this big loop, I wonder how many times they're going to do this. Will it happen more often?
Not enough to get
Are we
us
good?
on
We're going to
there.
do the show from space?
I would actually do it. I think you two would not.
I think you would.
I would.
I definitely would not.
Even though I'm afraid of heights.
All right, let's head back to Gail in Van Horn, Texas for more coverage of Blue Origin's launch. Sun is up there, Gail. Sky's looking good.
I know the sky's looking good. I mean, the weather seems pretty perfect to me. Jeff Bezos and his fellow passengers are now on New Shepard. We saw them get on about 10 minutes ago. They were walking up a ramp, and before they walked in, they each rang a little bell. I'm not quite sure exactly what that means. We were looking at the feed from the training center, and we saw Mark Bezos helping his brother Jeff do something with his flight suit. It's very cute. It's a very intimate moment when you see the four of them together just sitting there waiting. Former NASA astronaut Peggy Whitson knows just what those moments feel like. She has spent more cumulative time in space than any other American, and the most of any woman in the world, 685 days in total. During her time at NASA, she was commander of the International Space Station twice. You go, Ms. Whitson. Now she plans to come out of retirement and travel to space again as commander for the private company Axiom Space. Peggy Whitson joins us now. Good morning to you, Peggy Whitson. You know, a few minutes ago, they put a pause on the countdown clock. It only lasted for 4 minutes. They don't have to tell us a reason. But when you hear that there's a pause, what does that say to you? And what does that do to you mentally when there's a pause? It's back, it's counting again, so everything seems to be fine. But there was a 4-minute pause.
Well, for shuttle launches, we always had built-in holds. I don't know that they do that for Blue, but in any case, they are not going to a destination, so it'll be okay. They're going just to space, and as long as they are satisfied that whatever issue is resolved, they'll be fine. But everything on launch day is a hurry up and wait kind of thing. You have to hurry up to be on time. Then you have to wait. And so it's a little disconcerting being that mode.
Yeah, you know, Peggy, I got up at 3 o'clock this morning, and one of the first things I started thinking about was the Bezos brothers and the other two crew members. What this must feel like to them, this waiting. I was thinking, do you sleep the night before? What do you eat the night before? Are you nervous as you're sitting there just waiting to go? Tell us what that was like for you and what you think they must be feeling at this moment.
Well, on my very first launch, I was very worried about doing everything right. Theirs is a lot more relaxed in the sense that they don't have to do a lot of complex maneuvers, but they have only a very short period of time while they're in space. And so they're going to want to take advantage of every second while they're up there. So they're probably thinking about, I'm going to do this first, and then I'm going to do this, and, you know, figure out their sequence of events.
You know, we were talking about the training, what goes into this. As you said, they don't have to do a lot of complex maneuvers. Basically, all they have to do is get in there and ride. And when you talk about the training, in the book it says, anybody in reasonable health could do this. Some of the requirements are this: height and weight range, 5'10", 110, 110 pounds, 6'4", up to 223 pounds. Be able to dress yourself in a one-piece zip-up flight suit. Be able to strap and unstrap in 15 seconds and remain strapped into a crew capsule for 40 minutes and up to 90 minutes and not have to use the bathroom or get up. So the training is very, very different from when you were training. Can you just give us a glimpse to what your training was like back in the day compared to, and these are, as we know, two different types of flights?
It is extremely different because we trained 2 years, just basic training, learning all the systems of the space shuttle and the International Space Station. And then later I learned Soyuz systems as well. But for each flight, then there was a couple of more years of training. So it's a much more complex and covers a much bigger period of time.
Yeah. Can you also talk about, a lot has been made of Richard Branson just went up, Elon Musk SpaceX vehicle went up, and now we've got Blue Origin. You know, I've heard it described as joyride for billionaires. Maybe it's a vanity project. When you talk to all three of these men, they emphasize nothing could be further from the truth. They feel very committed to this cause, very passionate about it. How do you see what they're doing?
Well, I think it's really important what we're seeing now. These are the first steps of commercial spaceflight and commercialization of space in particular, which I think, you know, it has to be built in these piece parts. And so, yes, it takes money to make some of these things happen, and it's a very, very exciting time because not only do we have Blue and Virgin doing suborbital flights, we're going to have later this year Inspiration 4 on SpaceX, and then next year we'll have a couple of Axiom flights to the International Space Station. So it's all building blocks that allow commercialization of space and the utilization of space for commercial purposes. And I think you're going to see some really exciting developments in the next few years just based on the commercialization.
Yeah. I feel it here, and I got to say, Peggy, I got a big old girl crush on Wally Funk. I know that you've met her, you know her. People say she's a real deal. In one sentence, how would you describe her?
Infectious enthusiasm and extremely effervescent. She's everything.
Yes.
You know, you want
well done.
Your ambassador to space to be.
Yes, absolutely right. You know, she's 82, and she told us yesterday she feels 24. I want some of what she's drinking. Thank you, Peggy Whitson. It's always good to see you. Thank you very much.
This was the scene back in March in Kazakhstan. A Soyuz rocket carrying 2 American astronauts and a Russian cosmonaut blasted off for the 6-hour flight to the International Space Station. Today, 289 days later, just one of them remains in space. And this morning, she is setting a space milestone. Christina Koch now holds the record for the longest single space flight by a woman. But her space odyssey is about much more than just the duration of her time away from Earth. Christina Koch was greeted with hugs when she arrived at the International Space Station 8.5 months ago, realizing a dream she'd had since childhood. The 40-year-old engineer was originally supposed to spend 6 months in space, but in April, her stay was extended to last nearly a year. And today, she breaks the record held by retired astronaut Peggy Whitson for the longest single trip in space by a woman.
It's a huge honor. Peggy is a heroine of mine who's also been kind enough to mentor me through the years, and so it's a reminder to give back and to mentor when I get back.
Part of Koch's mission is to study the effects of long-term space travel on the human body.
I also like to think of it as it's not so much how many days you're up here, but what you do with each of those days. So that reminds me to bring my best to every single day. I think it's wonderful for science. It helps us push the boundaries of what we know about what long-duration spaceflight can do to the human body, and that's important for our future exploration deeper into going to Mars and also returning to the moon and going there to stay.
Since her mission began, Koch has completed 4 spacewalks, including one that was history-making in its own right.
I'm right beneath your feet, so don't move down. Copy.
In October, she and fellow astronaut Jessica Meir conducted the first all-female spacewalk, snapping selfies as they swapped out faulty batteries on the International Space Station, and following it up with a phone call from President Trump.
I just want to congratulate you. What you do is incredible. You're very brave people. I don't think I want to do it. I must tell you that.
Koch discussed that milestone with us yesterday on CBS This Morning. Why do you think we're seeing these milestones now for women in space?
You know, I think it's a wonderful time for human spaceflight because I think we finally recognize that it's not worth going unless we go together, that it's important to not turn away any innovative idea, that everyone has a role and everyone has a place at the table as we move forward. If we're going to go for all humanity and to support humanity's love for exploration, then we have to do it with all humanity. And I think we're seeing that as our plans unfold for going back to the moon, seeing the first woman walk on the moon in 2024, and just recognizing that we have to go together if we're going to go and we're going to do it right.
While she's not on Earth, Koch has kept her eye on home, sharing photos of our planet with her 145,000 Twitter followers. Most recently, a picture of Mount Everest.
I would say the most awe-inspiring thing that I've ever seen is the northern lights or southern lights, or aurora as we call them, from above on a planetary scale. I've had the opportunity working in Antarctica and the Arctic to see them from below and the beautiful shimmering lights along the sky and taking over the whole sky. But to look down on the Earth and see the entire shape of the auroras, you know, as they form near the poles was truly an amazing sight and just literally took my breath away.
Being away for so long has required sacrifice, including spending holidays away from family while suspended in zero gravity. Still, Koch says she hopes her record doesn't last long.
My number one hope for this milestone is that the record is exceeded again as soon as possible, because that means that we're continuing to push the boundaries.
And in the end, it should be 328 days. February 6, 2020 is when she's set to come back. What I think is so neat is she had talked to us yesterday about how, she wanted to do this as a young girl, but her class is the first that was an even split of men and women. So all the young girls now out there that maybe look out there and can dream about doing this too.
And I know spacewalks, they've gotten more routine if they can ever be routine, but I never get tired of looking at that. It's just so fascinating.
And the view's not bad.
The view is not bad at all.
I bet that does not get old.
No.
We begin this half hour with a routine maintenance mission aboard the International Space Station that made history high above the Earth. NASA astronauts Christina Koch and Jessica Meir completed the first all-female spacewalk. While the eyes of the world were watching, the mission went off without a hitch.
Jessica, Christina, we are so proud of you. You're going to do great today. We'll be waiting for you here in a couple hours when you get home.
Drew, thank you so much. It's been our pleasure working with you this morning.
It began at 7:38 Eastern Time when Christina Koch and Jessica Meir first stepped into outer space.
Oh, wow, the Baja Peninsula. My favorite things to look at.
Tethered to the space station by all too thin cords, and began their mission to replace a faulty power controller.
And the box is just to your right. Okay, I see that.
7 hours and 17 minutes later, the job was complete, and they closed the hatch behind them. The repair job marked Koch's fourth spacewalk and Meir's first, but it's the first time two women have ever ventured out of a spacecraft as a team.
Station, this is President Donald Trump. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
That's great.
And President Trump congratulated them while the two were still at work in a video call from the White House, thanking them for their bravery and service.
And I just want to congratulate you. What you do is incredible. You're very brave people.
The first woman to ever walk in space was Russian cosmonaut Svetlana Savitskaya. The first American, Kathy Sullivan, followed a year later. But plans for an all-women's walk earlier this year had to be scuttled when NASA realized the space station lacked a second properly fitting suit. It was an embarrassing oversight that was not overlooked by Saturday Night Live back here on Earth.
This has got to be disappointing for you.
No.
NASA's next milestone could come in 2024, when the agency plans a return trip to the moon, very possibly with a woman taking that small step and giant leap onto the lunar surface. One good indication, the mission is named Artemis, after the twin sister of the Greek god Apollo.
I love how a routine mission is 7 hours.
7 hours?
7 hours and 17 minutes.
I don't have the attention span for that, I'm not going to lie.
They did great.
Congratulations to them, though. Great step forward.
This morning in our series Note to Self, we hear from record-setting NASA astronaut Peggy Whitson. She returned from the International Space Station back in September after a 288-day mission. Whitson has spent more time in space than any other American. Wow. While in orbit, the 57-year-old biochemist started writing a letter to her 9-year-old self. She finished it with us back home in Houston at NASA Johnson Space Center for her Note to Self.
Dear younger me, I've learned a few things over the years that I would like to share with the younger version of myself.
There it is, a U.S. flag on the surface of the moon.
You just watched on TV as Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin took the first steps on the moon.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Although at the time it was an unbelievable moment in history, seeing it with your own eyes made it real and believable and achievable. It made you feel small, but filled you with excitement. That moment in time planted a seed of inspiration in you. Now it's up to you to nourish that seed and grow it into more than just a dream. Next year, your dad will get his private pilot's license. You will get your very first ride in an airplane. The exhilarating view of the cornfields from above will inspire you to fly as well. However, it will take several years of raising and selling chickens to earn enough money to take your own flying lessons. But just remember, learning to fly with that chicken money will be the first step toward a higher purpose. Because one day, you will become a real space explorer.
Next is Sally Ride.
The year you graduate high school, NASA will select the first female astronauts. You will dream of exploration. Know that what you dream for might seem impossible, but you will be successful as long as you make your life decisions based on your own value system and not others. So ignore the naysayers, ignore the people who say you can't become an astronaut. Instead, use it as motivation. It will be 10 years of applying before ever becoming an astronaut. The rejections will be discouraging. But in your typical style, you will just keep trying. All those years of anticipation will be surpassed.
5.
When the solid rocket boosters ignite, and you will literally roar into space.
And liftoff of the Space Shuttle Endeavour.
Seeing the Earth for the first time in orbit, you will be surprised that you never noticed the quality and texture of colors. High above Earth, you will remember what your parents taught you growing up on the farm. Problems don't always have elegant or expensive solutions. Dad will teach you that number 2 wire and pliers, plus a healthy attitude, can fix almost anything.
U.S. astronaut Peggy Whitson returned to Earth today.
Believe it or not, you will spend more time in space than any other American astronaut.
And has now spent more than 665 days off the planet, more than any other American astronaut.
And earned the nickname Space Ninja.
There's our resident Space Ninja.
You will grow soybeans on orbit while your father will grow soybeans on Earth. You will have the opportunity to help build the engineering marvel that is the International Space Station.
She now becomes the first 2-time female commander of the International Space Station.
You will walk in space 10 times.
I'm heading back to the pillar.
Copy, Peggy. You're clear.
You will find that living in space can actually become a home, in spite of tools floating away. Alien to all you know, you will adapt and you will love it. Know that even though it is incomprehensible to you, you will be a role model. I'm still struggling with this one, so you need to step up a bit earlier than I have done. I would tell you not to underestimate your abilities, but since I know you, I'll just say, challenge yourself. You will learn that you are so much more capable than you might imagine or even dream. Sincerely, the older you.
Houston.
Sally Ride made history back in 1983 when she became the first American woman to travel into outer space. Now, Ride and 3 other women, all NASA pioneers, are being honored with their own likenesses. The Women of NASA Lego set went on sale this week, and it quickly became the top-selling toy on Amazon.
The group of astronaut candidates includes a number of firsts.
I'm Mae Jemison, and I'm the first woman of color in the world to go into space.
Mae Jemison's figure stands alongside Ride's next to a Lego version of the space shuttle. But the toys don't just honor astronauts. Also depicted, astronomer Nancy G. Roman.
I started in NASA in 1959. It was 6 months old.
She was NASA's first female executive and is often credited with being the mother of the Hubble Space Telescope, which transmitted these stunning pictures of deep space back to Earth.
That's one small step for man.
Computer scientist Margaret Hamilton wrote the software code that helped the Apollo 11 crew land safely on the moon. And just last year, she was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
I wanted for this particular set to focus on women who had contributed to NASA history.
The Women of NASA edition was originally thought up by science writer Maya Weinstock. She submitted the plans to LEGO in 2016, and the project received the 10,000 votes it needed to proceed in a little more than 2 weeks. By shrinking them down to a little more than an inch, Weinstock hopes to highlight their oversized achievements.
You can never have enough sets that really celebrate women who've been underappreciated in history.
One small step for the toy industry, one huge step for womankind.
I just love this story.
I do too.
Everything about it.
Go get a set now.
Yeah, and a lot of people are.
We're very excited for our next guest. You might call her stellar. American astronaut and civil rights activist Amanda Nguyen will be the very first Vietnamese and Southeast Asian woman to travel into space. Amanda put her childhood dreams of being an astronaut on pause temporarily when she was sexually assaulted in her senior year of college. She became an activist for survivors, writing the Sexual Assault Survivors Bill, signed into law back in 2016. It ensures that in federal cases, sexual assault survivors have rights to information surrounding their evidence collection kits, including notification before those kits are destroyed. This year, she will travel to space with Blue Origin. Nguyen recently partnered with Elf Beauty through their Show Yourself film series, sharing her story of resilience. And she joins us now to talk about that story. Amanda, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I know you can't tell us when you're going up into the great blue beyond, but tell us about the preparations and what it means to you.
You know, I'm just so thrilled to be able to achieve this childhood dream of mine. I've been training for the several past years, and my specialty is in bioastronautics, but I'll actually be conducting a science experiment on plants. So that's in partnership with the Vietnamese National Space Center and some scientists at the University of Wisconsin.
What's the experiment you're going to be doing? It reminds me of that movie, was it The Martian, where he grows,
yeah,
right? He grows plants in space?
Yes, and it's actually pretty
Damon?
important for the future of spaceflight so that our astronauts can eat, but it will be examining how plants respond to microgravity.
Now, you have shared your family's connection to the stars. You've talked about members of your family being boat refugees from Vietnam and using the stars to help navigate them. When did you find that out, and what does that mean to you?
Yeah, you know, my mom is a boat refugee from Vietnam, and she crossed the ocean so that I can touch the sky. And I just grew up with that lore. But also, both of my parents are engineers. And when they came to the US, they actually decided that learning how to code was easier than learning English. So it's definitely been a part of my DNA from the very beginning.
You always wanted to be an astronaut. That was derailed when you were sexually assaulted in college. And you decided to devote your life to activism. How difficult a decision was that for you?
Yeah, and thank you so much for treating this issue with the respect that it deserves. You know, I was raped, and I found out that the government had destroyed rape evidence before it was tested. And so at the crossroads of my justice and my astronaut dreams, I traded in my telescope to write the Sexual Assault Survivor Bill of Rights. I remember walking out of the hospital feeling so lonely, and when I saw the Rape Crisis Center, there weren't enough seats for us in the waiting room. So that's when I knew that my story wasn't mine alone. You know, since I've written my bill, the US Congress and the United Nations have passed my legislation unanimously, which protects 1.3 billion survivors around the world.
I mean, an enormous change and contribution, truly. Thank you so much for everything that you've worked on.
Yeah, of course.
We're all shaped by our experiences. We just touched on a couple of the darker experiences in your life, but let's look at a brighter one ahead. At some point on this flight, I presume you're going to get a view of the Earth. The overview effect is what astronauts call it, and it often changes people.
Yeah.
Brings them closer to God, makes them rethink their faith. Are you prepared for that moment? What do you think it's going to be like?
Well, you know, every astronaut has a zero-G indicator. It's a little something that lets us know we're in space when it's floating. And mine is something that's very special. So it's a promise I made to myself. After the hospital, I wrote down never, never, never give up on a piece of paper. And I taped that paper to my laptop to see it every day as I was fighting for my rights. And I will be looking at that promise as I hover over Earth. And that healing moment, I hope, resonates with survivors and with anyone who's ever had to defer their dreams.
So you're going to bring that paper into space and it's going to float? You're going to see it float?
That's right, yeah.
Wow.
It's going to be
amazing.
Yeah.
How does it feel to be achieving this dream in this way?
You know, I want Vietnamese girls to see themselves in the stars. I might be the first, but I won't be the last. And I'm so grateful to my partners who have uplifted my story, like Elf Beauty. We just shot this film together, and it talks about how women and girls can really achieve all their dreams. And also center joy, you know, because I do think that joy is the most radical form of rebellion.
Beautiful.
Amen. Say it again.
That's right. That's right.
Most radical form of rebellion.
That's right. Looking so chic in what you call this look, astronaut chic, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
I do call it. Thank you, Tom Brown.
All
Let's fly.
Amanda, thank you so much.